Hello, everybody. Welcome to this year's 2023 Nonpartisan Village Trustee Forum. My name is Sarah Winia Smith. I'm the Chair of Communications for the Elm Grove Junior Guild, and we're really happy to host this forum. First, I'm going to give you some voting information. I am the moderator. I'm not a candidate myself. Election day is Tuesday, April 4th. The polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Election Day. All the residents of the village vote here in the Village Hall, which is at 13600 Juneau Boulevard, for those of you watching online or watching the video. The building's ADA compliant, and you must bring a photo ID government issued with you. On that ballot, there are candidates for Village Trustee, who we have in attendance here, and Village President, along with the Elmbrook School Board, the Elm Grove Municipal Judge, the State Supreme Court Justice, Waukesha County Circuit Court, and judges, and some statewide referendums. You can visit myvote.wi.gov for more information and a sample ballot. Our outline for the forum tonight will give you some insight into our nonpartisan candidates, what they think on issues that are specific to our village. They're seated left to right in order of how they appear on the ballot. We gained these questions by asking for input from citizens via an online form. A committee from the Elm Grove Junior Guild met to discuss the questions. We also met with the village manager to check the accuracy and relevancy of many of the questions, and most of them were amalgamated into 7 different topics that we will go through one by one, and everybody will have a chance to speak. Many similar themes kept occurring, and so we know that these are issues that people in the village care deeply about. No live questions will be taken tonight, but I'm sure all the candidates would be happy to have a discussion with you afterwards or by email. I will call on the candidates one by one to give their answers. They will be held to a time limit, so everybody gets a fair chance to answer the questions. And following everybody's response, each candidate will have a brief amount of time to optionally clarify, rebuttal, respond to answers that were given. So first of all, we are going to start with some candidate introductory statements, and we will begin with our candidate for president, Jim Koleski. So go ahead, Jim.
Good evening. First, thank you to the Junior Guild for arranging this forum. Second, thank you to all the residents for being here tonight, live streaming or tuning in later to view this forum. The engagement and connectedness of this community is what makes Elm Grove great. I'm running for village president to continue to volunteer my experience to the community. As a CFO and CPA, I have held leadership positions in manufacturing businesses ranging in size from 250 to 2,000 associates. The village is at a crossroads with many upcoming large projects to review and finance, while also facing budget constraints with limited ability to raise revenue. I will leverage my experience to guide the village through these challenges. Working with our talented village team, I want to keep the village special while also supporting growth that will enhance the community. My campaign has been focused and reinforced going door to door to 900 plus residents during this campaign on the need to guide major projects shaping Elm Grove's future, including the restart, review, and approval of the downtown master plan, support review of fire and emergency services, explore possible municipal water expansion, lead the execution of the daylighting of Underwood Creek, review and monitor Caroline Heights, the Mandel development, and the associated TID funding commitment, work to sustain and expand businesses located in the village, and finally, being a steward of the village's excellent financial position. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jim. Next, we'll have Mary Inden, who is a registered write-in candidate for village president.
Good evening. My background is that I grew up in Hales Corners when there was practically anything there. I obtained a Bachelor of Science degree of nursing at Marquette University. My nursing career included work in the operating room, emergency room, and I taught recovery room nursing for Marquette for a little while. I am married to Dr. Ron Inden. We moved to Elm Grove 40 plus years ago with 3 little kids, Joel, Andy, and Molly. I started my community involvement very early. Cub Scout den leader, soccer coach, and team manager. I started co-chairing the July Family Fun Fest event in 1984 and continued with that commitment for 34 years. I was elected trustee 5 times and I served from 1986 to 96. I was appointed chair of the Recreation Committee and a member of Public Works, Public Safety, and the Building Board. In 1988, I opened the Gilded Edge Frames and Gallery in New Berlin and moved the business to Elm Grove. And then in 98, we had 6 feet of water in the gallery and lost everything. But we restarted. I now have a simultaneous career as a home staging consultant. I'm a member and past president of the Elm Grove Business Association, helps with the Shred Day, co-chair the Holiday Open House, and the calendar. As you can guess, I love Elm Grove. I provided those 2 pictures and the Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Inden. Now we'll move to the candidates for village trustee. We will start with Thomas Shepard.
Good evening. My name is Thomas Shepard, and I would be honored to be your next trustee for the village. I'd like to start by thanking my lovely wife, Holly. She's at home right now with our 2 kids. Kids, be good, go to bed on time. Also like to thank the Junior Guild and Sarah for hosting this. We appreciate everything you guys do for the village. Lastly, thank all of you for being here today in person and virtually. Thank you for submitting your questions. You guys have the power, you have the voice, you have the vote. You simply elect us to represent you in this Elm Grove government. My family's lived here since 2011, and I'm the owner of a commercial real estate firm. I currently serve on the village's Finance and Licensing Committee. I've met many of you over the years at Western Racket, St. Mary's Visitation, or a Junior Guild event. Maybe I've coached your kids in T-ball, or I've helped you on your faith journey at SMV. I have enjoyed meeting dozens of new friends and neighbors on the door knocks that I've done in the neighborhoods. So why run? First, public service is in my blood. My grandfather, my dad, and my uncle all served on county and local boards. Public service has been a Shepherd dinner table conversation for my entire life. But my motivation runs deeper. Our family's committed to this village. We love it. Elm Grove is where we've made lifelong friends. It's where we worship. It's where our children go to school. Therefore, for me, it's both a civic and moral duty to volunteer in this community. So why me? I'm actively involved. Like I said, I'm on finance, and that's opened my eyes to all of the challenges village government faces. Because of this experience, I can jump in on day one and be your trustee.
Thank you, Tom. Next, we'll go to Tom Castile.
Thanks also to the Junior Guild and for everyone for coming today. My name is Tom Castile. My wife Robin and I, we moved from Brookfield to Elm Grove about 17 years ago. We have a daughter, Sarah, her husband Ryan, and 2 grandkids that also live in Elm Grove. They live on Sunny Slope. And my background is basically in polymer science. I've been in new business development. My degree's in accounting, but I've been in new business development in polymer science and life sciences for the last majority of my career. And one of the things, I've told this story before, but I want to repeat it. One of the things I noticed when we moved from Brookfield, it was only about 3 miles away. When we moved to Elm Grove, we noticed a major difference. I was sitting there about 2 years later, after working on my home, looking at the streets, and just felt like there's something different about Elm Grove. It felt so much quieter. It was quaint, friendly people walking up and down the streets, going to the park, 4th of July events, the parade. It's a great place to live. Nothing wrong with Brookfield, but this was special. It was different. It has a very quaint, friendly, quiet, safe place. Oh, 30 seconds. Oh, no. So I understand why so many people I've met recently, born and raised here, went away to school, started their careers elsewhere, then came back to raise their families here. We face a lot of challenges as a village, and it's time for me as a citizen to give back. I want to be a citizen trustee for the citizens, to represent the citizens and do everything I can, put my efforts and my hard work to help solve these problems. So thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Christina Sayas.
Good evening. I first want to take this time to thank the Elm Grove Junior Guild for providing this platform. Whether you are new to Elm Grove or a longtime resident, think about why you chose to live here, why you stayed here, or why you have come back. I'm confident your list would include top-rated school district, safety, a quaint village that offers some of the best traditions like our annual Memorial Day parade, our 4th of July celebration, breakfast with Santa, our annual tree lighting, or maybe it's because Elm Grove is a welcoming community of neighbors and friends. While I'm originally from Evanston, Illinois, I have lived in Wisconsin for 12 years. My husband James and I moved to Elm Grove and purchased his family home over 9 years ago. My career has been in education, sports marketing, and nonprofit management. In 2015, I started my own consulting firm specializing in small to mid-sized organizations to help build strong leaders, financial stability, and sustainable growth. I've been an active member of the community since the year we moved here. I have been the president, along with other leadership positions of the Elm Grove Junior Guild. I am currently serving as village trustee, as well as on the board of directors for the Elm Grove Community Foundation. I feel incredibly fortunate and blessed to live here in Elm Grove with my husband and son. I have come to understand that it is the volunteers across the village that really help make Elm Grove work. I want to continue to build on that legacy, and I feel my career and my background is ideal for both embracing the opportunities and addressing the challenges that lie in front of Elm Grove. Thank you.
Thanks, Christina. Next, Robert Prang.
Good evening. My name is Robert Prang. I'm probably one of the newest members of the Elm Grove community. I've only been here about 7 years. I moved here to take a job in Milwaukee. My background is I was born and raised on a farm. I went to school for computer science. I have been working in Fortune 500 companies at various levels, including executive management. I have looked at construction plans. I have built houses. I know a lot of what goes on in a community related to how you have to understand these things as a trustee. I've also managed budgets up to $10 million. So I also understand a lot about the budget process. I've also worked when I was in Baraboo for 5 years. I was a member of their school district strategic planning. So I actually have some experience in working through strategic plans for organizations as well. But I came here because I really would like to volunteer my skills to the city to make it better and to work hard in making that happen, because I know this is not an easy job. There's a lot of things you have to do. And I currently do a lot of work related to being on doing reports to a board of directors and being on the audit committee also for the bank I work at. So thank you much for your time, and I'm looking forward to hearing about all the other people on the agenda. Thank you.
Now we will move into citizen submitted topics. As I mentioned before, these were submitted online and are compiled into sets of topics with some background and an initial question. Each candidate will get a minute to respond initially, and there will be an optional 30-second response. So the first topic that we're going to go into is the School Sisters of Notre Dame redevelopment. A little background on this. The property formerly belonging to the School Sisters of Notre Dame on Watertown Plank Road was recently sold to the Mandel Group to redevelop into a mix of apartments and single-family homes. The Village of Elm Grove entered into a development agreement to provide tax incremental financing, which is commonly referred to as a TIF, for this project. The question is, acknowledging past decisions that were made, how will you make sure that this project stays on course and proceeds in the best possible manner for the community of Elm Grove? And we will start with Mary Inden on this one.
Thank you. The one issue affecting the entire village is money. It's needed for a budget that encourages a prosperous downtown, well-maintained streets and pedestrian pathways, upkeep of the village hall, the fire and police departments, and the EMS. Last spring, we finally budgeted enough money to upgrade the pool house facility, which was in deep decline. We need more money. The means to get that money is to have development of properties. Either you tear down an old one and build a bigger one, or you get a new one. Stay out of the way, keep our eye on the ball, and don't impede the progress being made. We need to honor our agreements that have been struck and the plans and approvals that have been made. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Next, Thomas Shepard.
First, we must acknowledge that this development still cuts deep and stings for a lot of people, especially the residents that live adjacent to the site. I recently door knocked throughout the Caroline Heights and Meadows Grove neighborhoods, which sit immediately east of School Sisters. They voiced their concerns, and I listened. Trust me, I understand too, because I live within walking distance of the village business district. Balancing smart, sensible, well-planned, lower-density redevelopment is a priority of mine as a trustee. Engaging with residents in this process is key. As a project moves forward this summer, areas of concern that the village staff must monitor involve traffic flow, limiting the disruption of site and water infrastructure, and lastly, ensuring that the developer does not cut corners and delivers the highest quality building that we signed up for, as outlined in the development agreement. In order to ensure this happens, as your trustee, I will propose and advocate that we hire outside professionals in the construction industry to represent the village as a fiduciary watchdog. In essence, we should have the best possible resources to rely on to protect the taxpayers.
Thank you, Tom. On to Tom Castile.
The question is really the project. How do we ensure that this project stays on course and proceeds in the best way for the village of Elm Grove? And first off, the Elm Grove is supporting the village right now. The building board met recently to approve some of the changes that Mendel wanted, some of the cosmetic type changes, and so they're supporting them in that process. But the two things that we can really do as a village to ensure our success is one is with regards to the cost, ensure that we get the lowest cost financing. We have our finance committee. We have Monica Hughes is a great asset to this company, this country, this village, and ensure that the cost to the village is as minimal as possible. And the second thing is to focus on what keeps Elm Grove unique and special. Because for those apartments, for those homes to have the highest value, they have to be different than all the other apartments in Brookfield and the surrounding areas. So for that development to be successful, we need to keep Elm Grove the unique and special place. That's how we'll be ensure that that development's successful, and that TID, which will be roughly 20 years out, hopefully could be paid off a year or two sooner.
Thank you. Christina Sayas.
The project is currently behind. As of today, there is still no set date for demolition, and the school sisters' property has not been sold. I would encourage the building board, along with the trustees, to continue to work with Mandel in good faith. However, we need to hold Mandel accountable to the agreement and conditions set forth in the existing contract. I'm okay with accommodating changes due to shortage issues. However, we should not allow for a decrease in quality for the project, specifically because of the financial requirements of the TID. The village is providing assistance of over $23 million, which, to put into perspective, is 3 times our annual budget. Do not be misled that TIFs don't cost anything. They impact the ability to borrow money for additional projects. The village will not see the tax benefits from the school sisters' property until the entire TIF is paid off, which is slated to be paid off in 2050. The village does not have any more money to give. Monies need to go towards pathways, water, other projects, services that benefit our residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Prang.
TIF financing is entered into in order to provide a conduit to allow development in a community. So TIF financing is a very common way to delay payment of taxes in order to help that company get the financing they need to create an investment in the community. And I think the most important thing with that is that they are investing so that we will reap the rewards in the future. And they have to have that financing in place in order to manage it. So I think the one thing that we really need to keep moving forward on is really to support that project, move it forward, support the developer, and to make sure that we're not trying to cancel the project out from underneath it, because that will create a issue for the community as a whole. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Jim Koleski.
As current chair of the Finance Committee, on March 17th, I met with Mandel and representatives of the village. Unfortunately, President Palmer had to cancel at the last minute, so he could not attend. We wanted to get an update on the project and current activities. To date, the property is still owned by the school sisters, what Christina mentioned, while Mandel Company completes various actions required before closing. The current focus is finalization of construction drawing and engineering materials. At a recent building board meeting, some design changes were proposed to the project. At that meeting, I expressed views I have heard from the community about concerns related to maintaining the overall project quality and design elements. Completing the water design with Wauwatosa is also ongoing, and finalizing financing. Mandel has until December 31, 2023 to complete the above. I have stated I will work closely with Mandel and hold them accountable to the terms in the agreement, including project design and materials. I've expressed my personal commitment. Sorry, I'll come back on that.
Okay. Now we will have an optional time of response if you need it. Mary, would you like to?
On the changes of the design or materials that I understand happened is that Mandel had horizontal metal railings on the balconies, and they were concerned with the safety issues of children living in those apartments. So they put in the design vertical supports so that kids can't climb up and fall over. And the stone that they chose is a different stone, but very similar to the initial one. And they felt that they would be able to get all the stone they need.
Thank you. Would you like to respond, Tom?
No further comment.
No. Tom Castile?
Just a couple things. One, the question is with regards to what can we do? We of course must hold them to their contractual obligations. It's a requirement. They've got the contract. It's, in my opinion, more leveraged towards them, their benefits than ours, but we must hold them accountable for that contract and their obligations under the contract. There's comments about needing money. We need money now. We can't wait 20 years. But the sisters deal, we have to assume, based on the question here too, that it's a done deal. So the best things we can do is ensure that Elm Grove stays a special place so that property becomes developed successfully, and that.
Thank you. Christina.
Going back to the building board and Mary's comments too, they were talking about changing the windows from Anderson to, what is it? Marvin. And, they said that the Anderson windows like mold or something. Well, they're the ones that they used in the watermark. I mean, I have some concerns that you originally slated those windows for this project. And with the Marvin windows, I believe one of the building board members asked, where can we see them? Like, what building in the community can we see them? They looked at each other and could not name one place that they could check out the quality. I just want to make sure that we ensure that we're getting what we.
Yeah. Robert, would you like to respond at all?
I don't have any additional comments.
Okay. Jim?
Yeah, just concluding my statement. I've expressed my personal commitment to Mandel that we are in a partnership to deliver the best long-term value for the community. Mandel confirmed this partnership. Related to the building board, there is the concept of windows. New renderings are being presented because one of the design elements was truly trying to make the large windows bring it be a design element, and the current proposal looks less appealing. So we're trying to gain some compromise associated with that particular item. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move on to our next topic now, which flows nicely from School Sisters Development. We're going to discuss municipal water. A little background on municipal water. Part of the development agreement between the Mandel Group and Elm Grove requires the extension of municipal water from Wauwatosa into Elm Grove. However, the initial plan only extends water west to just before the railroad tracks on Watertown Plank. The question is, how do you think Elm Grove should proceed, if at all, in extending municipal water to residents past the initial stages of development? And we will start this one with Thomas Shepard.
I am supportive of sourcing Lake Michigan water throughout the business district. This is long overdue. Some communities in southeast Wisconsin, and quite frankly throughout the country, would do anything to get access to this fresh water. Just ask Waukesha. Over the last 25 years, we have had an unbalanced shifting of the real estate tax burden in our community. There has been a steady erosion of commercial real estate assessed values in the commercial buildings, and the homeowners have picked up that burden. Why? A big part of it is lack of infrastructure, in particular water. Commercial properties on wells cannot be renovated to meet modern fire life safety codes. These buildings, mostly owned by the small business merchants, are also at higher risk of total loss due to fire. So insurance rates are elevated. Now, personally, I've invested a lot in my home well system. It works fine. We're good with it. I'm not angry at it like some of my neighbors. That said, for the safety of my family and for our home value and the economic long-term benefits, I would be open to connecting to public water in my neighborhood.
Thanks. Tom Castile?
Well, the water question needs to be broken down into two aspects. One, water from across the railroad tracks to the business, building on what Tom said. What can the business owners, the landowners there benefit from having the water? And they do a simple cost-benefit analysis with regards to having the water, what kind of benefits, what kind of buildings could they do, how could they enhance their businesses, and then also how does that align with what we'll talk about later with regards to the downtown master plan. When it comes to the second part, which is to the residences, to the residential district, there's several questions that still have to be built up. One, with regards to different cost models. There will be costs to the residents, to the citizens, the homeowners. So the different models, how that would be charged, need to be developed, and there needs to be clear communication with the homeowners on what water would cost them. Do they want it? And then build those plans around what the citizens desire and what fits well with whether the water's coming in and what needs to be done with regards to return loops to Wauwatosa. So those two aspects need to be kept separately.
Thank you, Tom. Christina Sayas.
So nervous with Stacy there. Since the discussion of bringing water from Lake Michigan to Elm Grove, I've been a huge advocate for it, especially for the residents, ensuring that you will have the opportunity to hook up as soon as possible. With all the discussions around the development, I will say the one thing that the vast majority of the residents could agree on was that they wanted municipal water. We need to identify the cost structure and where is the greatest need after the initial plan. Again, I understand that residents want water, but if it costs $20,000, are you going to do that this year, next year, 5 years from now? We need to figure out what those costs will be and how quickly we can extend it to the residents. I think it would be beneficial to survey the village to get a better understanding of who's willing to purchase water at this time, and maybe we start there. Again, I think we need to get a better idea on what the cost structure will be and prioritize from there. Thank you.
Thanks, Christina. Robert Prang.
I'd like to reiterate that it's very important for the downtown and for the development areas that we have open for development to get the pressurized water system in place. The reason for that is that you cannot even build or remodel facilities for public use without having sprinkler systems in place. This was kind of identified during the grocery stores remodeling, where they had to put in their own reservoir of water with specialized pumps and specialized systems that cost them a considerable amount of money to actually move forward with their development. So yes, should we be bringing it into the downtown? Absolutely. We need to make sure that happens. The other thing I think that's very important is that as we look at what we're doing with the residence areas, how does that get rolled out? Because you have to have the main trunks in place before you can roll it out to the entire community. Who gets that advantage first is another question, because that will affect everybody's house value as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Koleski.
During my campaign going door to door, water has been the second most discussed topic. The community right now, I feel, is fairly evenly divided on water expansion. In committee of the whole meetings to date, the board has explored and begun engineering and cost estimate finalization to extend water mains further west to Watertown Plank Road on Watertown Plank Road to approximately the BP station. In addition, the board has begun to review options on how to assess the village cost to property owners along the route and estimate the lateral costs for individual homeowners. We are early in those discussions and need to hear from the community and various neighborhoods on their desire to obtain municipal water. As we learn from our initial projects on the costs and benefits delivered, we can apply lessons learned and overall financial impact on the village. Input from residents will drive my position and support water expansion. My personal view is that municipal water has substantial value to downtown business districts and will increase property values. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Mary Andon.
Lake Michigan water will be a huge benefit to the village. Yes, there are costs. In my opinion, we should extend the pipes and make sure that the capacity of the pipes is great enough to accommodate future expansions. I would not want to see a 10-inch pipe put in if in the future, to get water further up the hill, we would need a 20-inch or another 10-foot blah, blah, blah. I think we need to make sure that we are getting enough capacity. We don't have to fill it. We don't have to buy it at this point in time, but I think that would be a good idea. Years ago, when Neil Palmer suggested bringing Brookfield water through the village from their north well to their south well, the residents all got a cut of what it would cost. It was over $7,400 at that time to have the pipe go through their street. Then there was going to be the cost of the laterals. So yes, this is going to be, that was a few years ago. Yes, there will be costs. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll have an optional time of response if you want one. Thomas Shepard.
Yeah, I'll just add a quick comment. I'm concerned about the current temperature of the board in that it's my understanding that we're going to potentially hold up the extension of water west of the railroad tracks to essentially do master planning before the water is extended. The problem with that is we haven't master planned ever. I mean, we've had drafts of plans, we've had versions of plans, but they've never been adopted. So I would like to think we can master plan, and that would be the next question. but let's not hold water hostage.
Thank you. Tom Castile?
There's been a lot of talk about water questions here, but the biggest thing is what's the cost? Who's going to pay for that? We are there's tight finances in the village. We can't be just saying we're going to put water downtown and then wait for something to come later on and who's going to pay, that where's that revenue coming from? How are we going to pay for that? Are we going to cut back on EMS, on fire? We have a lot of needs here. So what is the cost? What's the potential benefit from the downtown district? The downtown, those areas also within TID number 2. So any new development there, any new revenue until that TID number 2 closes, does not go into general funds. So it goes into the specifically the TID 2 revenue. So that cost needs to be evaluated very carefully.
Thank you. Christina, do you want to say anything more?
Sure. Yeah. Just the initial stages of the development, right? It's going to go towards the tracks. And that's what, Mandel supposedly will be getting it from Wauwatosa to the development. We're going to get it to the tracks. That's the best we can do right now because of funding. But yeah, we're going to have to create that loop, and where is it going to go? And again, I think that we need to, find out, get some input from our residents, find out what the cost structure is going to be, and then that would be hopefully telling on where we should be going with it next.
Thanks, Christina. Robert Prang, do you have anything more?
Yeah, so there's two ways of financing this type of water development. One is for the individual owners to pay their fair share based on the laterals that are going into their facilities. The other one is special assessment into your taxes. So I think it's important that the village really approaches it the way we've been talking about, every one of us, about being very cautious for how we approach that cost.
Thank you. Jim Koleski?
I think water is a great topic for open discussion and surveys, as Christina mentioned. We need to really listen, understand what our community wants. Our job as trustees and as a village president is to act on your desires. So let us know what you think, and we can build on that information.
And Mary Endon.
One hangup is that we now have a referendum in place that only allows $1 million less to be put through the budget. If it's $1 million or more, it has to go through an extensive referendum time period. It can be 6 months delayed. The benefits or the estimates can rise while you're doing the referendum. I would like to see the referendum changed somehow, either up to 2 million or 5 million for these kinds of deals. We're getting into the economy where we have to be able to get more done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Next, we're going to move into the topic of downtown master planning. A little background. In early 2020, Elm Grove was very close to finalizing a downtown master plan, which is a conceptual framework used to guide future development and planning. However, the pandemic prevented final meetings and approval from happening. Recently, the current Board of Trustees has indicated that they would like to return to this master planning initiative. The question for our candidates is, how do you think downtown master planning should be implemented? And if you think things should change, what are they? On this question, we will start with Tom Castile.
When it comes to the master plan, we do need one. We need to have a plan with what we want to do with downtown. How's that going to be developed, and make sure that we have citizen input with regards to what does the citizens want. I bet you outside of this room, very few people would really be aware of what the previous master plan was and the type of buildings and what that would have looked like had it been implemented and those buildings built. So my first focus would be to redo the survey. It's hard to do surveys and get broad input, but it's critical that all the citizens put input on what they would like to see with the downtown master plan and how it fits with keeping Elm Grove the unique, charming place that it is. And the second part of it is the previous master plan did not have the sisters development. So all the calculations that were used in determining the master plan before needs to be relooked at, needs to be reevaluated with regards to the type and the density of the housing that it's going to be in the sisters property.
Thank you, Tom. Christina Sayas.
Yeah, so the master plan was developed as a framework for potential future public and private investment in the downtown area. It was intended to be used to help the village with decision-making and implementation of development proposals and to provide direction to landowners and prospective developers. It's supposed to be a reflection of what residents favor and what is conceptually possible and where landowners decide what to do with their property, and the village board with input from residents evaluate proposals and make appropriate decisions. A public survey was conducted back in 2018 that highlighted what residents residents thought about the current state of Elm Grove, what they love about our village, and what land uses should be priority for downtown Elm Grove's redevelopment. Multifamily housing rentals came in dead last. I feel with the current plans for the development of the School Sisters of Notre Dame property, a new survey should be conducted to get input from our current residents. Thank you.
Thanks, Christina. Robert Prang?
In order to raise the tax base that we're dealing with, we have to use a mixed use type development environment that includes properties that can rent as well as have commercial properties underneath. I think that's very important for the revitalization of the downtown, because you will have a lot more foot traffic both from the Sister of Notre Dame environment and from a new development in downtown if it is a mixed use environment with apartments on the top. The key thing with that is that that will actually sponsor more business into the environment, which will then raise tax revenue as well. So we have the revenue from the apartments, we have the revenue from added businesses because we increase the foot traffic in downtown, and we have the increased revenues that are going to come from the Sister of Notre Dame. I think that's an important thing that we need to take into account during our planning. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Jim Koleski?
Thank you. I've gone on record that the Downtown Master Plan is a key document that must be completed. I view this document as providing the village's blueprint for future development. The pandemic has had a profound impact on downtown planning. We need to reboot the planning and update and integrate these changes and seek current community input on the downtown, incorporating the Creek Daylighting Project and the impact of Caroline Heights, the Mandel Project. I will approach the update with a fresh view. I will continue to support reasonable development of a scale that will enhance our community at an appropriate cost to the village. I know change is difficult and hard. However, working together and actively listening and exploring various options and mutually agreeing on the best course of action will keep our village vibrant and sustain the charm that makes it a special place to live and raise a family.
Thank you, Jim. Mary Enden?
I just reread dozens and dozens of pages from this plan. It's a lot of gobbledygook. It's just pages and pages of verbiage. On page 54, under utility infrastructure, it actually does comment on the school sisters and infrastructure, the municipal water, sanitary, stormwater, and daylighting of Underwood Creek. It's hours of reading, but try it. We have a good friend in our relationship named Bob Lang. He developed Delafield. I asked him years ago if he would come and take a look at Elm Grove when I was a trustee. He said he can't. There are too many individual property owners. There's no way you could buy all the properties that you would need to do to develop the downtown. We have to work with the individual property owners and hope that they come up with some really clever ideas to get us into a more modern situation.
Thank you, Mary. And Thomas Shepard?
I support master planning. We can no longer stick our head in the sand and be reactive to development. Quite frankly, the village got caught flat-footed when it came to the Reinders and the School Sisters proposals. And that essentially led to a lot of division in the community. Master planning should be completed to serve as a guide, not only for the village officials, but also the residents, outside developers, and it's really an understanding of what our residents desire and do not desire for future development. My campaign message has been one of unification. I think we can attempt to accomplish this by master planning. Brookfield adopted their plan. It's 186 pages. I started cruising through it as well. These things are massive. They're very detailed. We should knock the dust off of our Elm Grove 2020 plan. If we got to throw it through the shredder, fine. We should issue an RFP to new vendors if that's the decision of the board. And then it should be tied in to creek daylighting and water. These things are all inherently tied together. They shouldn't be done in chunks.
Now we'll have a time for optional response. Tom Castile, would you like to say anything more?
Basically, I agree with most what Tom just said. Also, with regards to the citizens' input needs to be in there. We don't want the downtown to start looking like a Brookfield downtown. Elm Grove needs to stay unique and charming. If we want the sisters' property to be successful, it can't be just look like any of the other apartments out there in Brookfield. So what should the downtown look like? Do you want to have 3-story, 4-story office buildings up and down the street? Or you want to maintain the uniqueness, the quiet, quaint value of the downtown? We need revenue. TIDs do not provide revenue anytime in the near future.
Thanks, Tom. Christina?
I'm good.
Okay, Robert Prang,
I will hold it.
you're fine. All right, Jim Koleski, would you like to say anything more?
A couple other comments. The key to the master plan is that it's our plan. We will not be all 100% aligned on the final document. However, we will understand the various options considered and discuss publicly and why the approved document is best for the long-term vibrancy of the community.
Thank you. And Mary Anden, do you want to say anything more?
Please take a look online at the master plan and sift through all the stuff and get down to. I was the only person in the room for the last number of months in the trustee meetings that ever owned or operated a retail business. Retail has very specific needs. It's different than a doctor, lawyer, Indian chief. Please take a look at it and you'll start to form an opinion about what you want done in this village.
Thanks, Mary. And Thomas Shepard.
I'm good.
Good. Okay. We will move on next to the topic of Underwood Creek daylighting. A little background on this. Underwood Creek currently runs in a tunnel under Watertown Plank Road, the Park and Shop parking lot, and Sendix. This tunnel structure is structurally unsound, and the state of Wisconsin has indicated that should it fail, the creek must be daylighted or uncovered. In the past several years, boards have discussed the plans and the financing for this project. The question for our candidates is, what is your ideal plan for Underwood Creek daylighting? And we will start this one with Christina Sayas.
Thanks, Sarah. The daylighting of the creek is required by the state as part of the Park Flood Reduction Project. No state permit was ever issued for rerouting and closing the creek back in the 1960s. So the question isn't if it should fail, it has to be daylighted. If we wait to do this until it does fail, it would be catastrophic for our downtown business community because of the delays by not planning and addressing it now. At our committee of the whole meeting back in February, we discussed plans to excavate an open channel to the east parallel with the Canadian Pacific Rail Line and away from the businesses south of Watertown Plank Road. The channel would swing back west to meet the creek south of Sendix at Wall Street. Daylighting of the creek will create a more natural channel, providing habitat for fish and other aquatic life. Once completed, the project will create a lasting impact not only on the ecology of the regional watershed, but also enhance the downtown corridor by providing great recreational and leisure amenities for Elm Grove residents for years to come. I got it in before
Thank you,
Sarah.
Christina.
I'm like
Nervous about the
get
time.
her.
You guys are doing great. All right, Robert Prang next.
Yeah, I took a look at the plan today. I actually read through it, so to get familiar with it. I think it's something that, as you said, it's going to be required by the state. It's something we have to do. It needs to be in conjunction with what we're doing for the master downtown plan as well, because you're really looking at the positioning of newer buildings, parking spaces, etc., in that plan to make sure that you're not eliminating the ability to have a vibrant downtown as you do the daylighting. I like the plan that I saw. I think there's probably some enhancements that could be done related to paths going potentially to Sisters of Notre Dame or other along that to make it more of a walking attraction to the downtown area. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Koleski.
Daylighting Underwood Creek is a priority and requirement for the village as it will provide a further gathering place and an attractive destination for residents. Progress to date includes acquiring the 1-hour Martinizing building to be torn down in Q2 and approval for an appraisal of the railroad land and certain parking spaces in the Stop and Shop parcels which need to be acquired. Overall project activities are expected to commence no later than the spring of 2024. Financing this project is expected to be through the extension of TID 2 by 3 years, which is allowed by the state. Key will be to get firm quotes for the required scope of work once engineering design is finalized. Recent Committee of the Whole meetings have also focused on the overall amenities to be included west of the rerouted creek, including green space and scope of any pathways. Further community input will be sought as planning begins. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Mary Anden.
I am kind of opinionated about some of this, but John Schindler has helped me understand some of the planning. The daylighting of Underwood Creek is absolutely necessary, and I'm on board for the safety and benefit of the businesses and the property owners. There are rumors out there that I have been against this. I shouldn't do it. No, that's not true, and please stop any rumors that you hear. I am in favor of it, but what I have been concerned about is the expanse and the costs of what they've designed and come up with for this product. I've asked that the village place barricades in the parking lot to demonstrate where the boundaries would be and how the traffic would move. The ingress and egress would be in front of Zisters, no longer out at Martinizing and in at Zisters. I'm very concerned about that kind of traffic activity so close to the sidewalk along the shopping center. So I do have really strong concerns about the safety. So far, the village has not agreed to put out the barricades.
Okay, that's time. Thank you, Mary. Thomas Shepard?
Yeah, this is too important, so we must get it right. Underwood Creek at Sendix in the Park and Shop is ground zero for our community. It's the center of commerce, it's the center of logistics, and it's where we interact with our neighbors. So it also has the potential to be a really cool green space to meet and have events. Here's my plan. The board should guide staff to price and plan various options. The board should then curate those options down to 2 finalists. They should both be safe, effective, and compliant with state and DNR regulations. Perhaps one option has a larger pocket park with amenities such as green space, a gazebo, park benches, and a narrow trail. The second option could be a more pedestrian and cyclist and car-friendly option with more parking stalls for the shop and park and shop. But then let's put those 2 renderings into an open house for everyone to view, and then put them on a ballot in a non-binding referendum. Let's let you all, the voters, decide on which of those 2 options you want.
Thank you. Tom Castile?
Yeah, if anybody has seen the pictures, I think it's going to be beautiful. It's going to look great. We have to do it, and that downtown is going to look so much nicer with the creek daylighted, with the flow there. The design, the way they've got it now, actually increases the number of parking spots there, improves the flow through there. It's going to be a beautiful attraction. It really fits well with what Elm Grove's about. To have that open daylight with the enhanced environmental impact, with the potentially salmon moving up through there. It's going to be a beautiful spot. It's going to help the downtown revitalization, help the businesses there. It makes a lot of sense. The financing also makes a lot of sense with extending the TID and using some of the revenue within that TID to help fund this daylighting. So I think it's a fantastic plan. It makes a lot of sense, and we should do it. And we should get input, and I like Tom's idea with regards to getting different designs, but the cost is on us. So the cost needs to be considered, and if any private companies want to come in and build gazebos, they should be more than welcome to, and that should be explored.
Thank you, Tom. Now for a time of optional response. Christina, do you have anything more to say?
I don't. Thank you.
Robert?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Jim?
Yeah, just to clarify for the community, the plans have been submitted to the Army Corps of Engineers, and the overall creek process, the creek structure has been approved by the Army Corps of Engineers. It's really the amenities that we need to really focus in on and understand what the community desires and what our overall appetite for funding those needs are. So, the creek has definitely moved forward with those approvals.
Thanks, Jim. Mary?
I think an 80-foot wide open space in downtown will not be good for the businesses in that area. It's too wide, too big. I picture little kids going down there. We've had 2 little boys drown in a flood already. I can see shopping carts being pushed down this little slope into, and we don't really have that much water going through there. If you go down there in a dry summer, it's pretty dry. I do like the idea of the meandering and the rocks and the fresh growing foliage.
Thank you, Mary. Tom Shepard?
I hear Mary's concerns about ingress and egress. However, let's be honest, the current situation can be a mess, especially at rush hour. People that are from outside of the community do not know how to get into Sendix. They go in the wrong way, they come out the wrong way. Let's make this a safe ingress and egress.
Tom Castile?
Yeah, the current design actually improves the flow, the traffic flow, and makes it a lot simpler. The parking spots are increased, and you don't want to just have a narrow channel going through there that's opened up. You want to have a special place. You want to have something that draws people, and they want to sit in Sisters or whatever and watch and look at the stream. You want to have something that really attracts and draws people to the downtown. I think that's the opportunity we have with the daylighting, which you need to take advantage of it, do it in a cost-effective way, and build it. It'll be great.
Thank you all. We're going to move on to the next topic, which is green initiatives. A little background on this. In recent years, the Elm Grove Beautification Committee has grown in its reach, recently a new sustainability subcommittee was established. The village has subsequently promoted events like No Mow May, the National Wildlife Federation community designation, enhanced Arbor Day festivities, and even goats in the park to cull non-native invasive species. The question is, what role do you think the village should play in these types of initiatives? And we will start this one with Robert Prang.
So I actually participated in the No Mow May. It was pretty rough to watch it grow and to understand what I was going to have to deal with to get it cut down. It might be easier to do a No Mow August instead of a No Mow May. However, I've seen beautification committees do an excellent job in communities and work with the cities very effectively to try to figure out how to finance some of their activities that they would like to do. But I've also seen other communities where there was too much emphasis put on groomed environments where it took a lot of maintenance by the city to perpetuate them. I think there's a balance that needs to occur with any beautification committee, that we make sure that we can support it moving forward and it doesn't get out of control.
Thank you, Robert. Jim Koleski?
I think the village needs to continue to engage residents with opportunities to improve the beauty of our community. The thoughtful communication shared by the committee bring perspective and education on topics that may not be front of mind and spur lasting positive changes for our residents. The suggestions of native perennial species and how to deal with and remove invasive plants is very helpful. The launch of the Sustainability Subcommittee will provide powerful insights into small changes in our waste system approach that will provide lasting benefits to the environment. Personally, I'd like to thank the committee for their hands-on approach. We asked for an audit of our residents to assess our readiness to apply for certified wildlife habitat status. The team did a fantastic job of providing cost-effective actions this past February as a blueprint and a to-do list for me this spring to accomplish. I will take great pride in applying for, receiving, and maintaining our certificate for years to come.
Thank you, Jim. Mary Andon?
These initiatives, in my view, are fantastic. I believe that our public works staff and our local forester are not only on board for this, but are very enthusiastic. The goats in the park were very impressive last summer. They just chomped away. I encourage the initiatives here in the village and the public areas of the village. A friend of mine is very active in this committee, and she asked if I would fill out the questionnaire, and lo and behold, we qualified for the count of the houses that qualify. So it was nice.
Thank you, Mary. Thomas Shepard?
I'm an avid outdoorsman and conservationist. I'm on a board of a wildlife group in northern Wisconsin, and we practice sustainability on a river flowage in Price County. Locally here in Elm Grove, I am also signed up for the April 22nd Underwood River Cleanup. Sign up if you can. There's still spaces available. So I'll be joining my fellow citizens to pick up trash from our icy stream in late April, with hip waders and all. But from a fiscal perspective, I view these as a positive. These sustainability efforts are generally budget neutral, and some are even funded through donations. I value the merits of this citizen-led group, and the village board should encourage their efforts.
Thank you. Tom Castile?
I love this initiative. If anybody knows Nikki, and someone who's actually put in the beautification committee and now part of the sustainability, she's put her heart and soul as a citizen, her heart and soul, and a lot of efforts into ensuring, doing everything she can for the beautification of Elm Grove, sustainability, all for our benefit. It's just fantastic work. Now, if she doesn't vote for me, I take it all back. But I love it. It's like Tom said, these are really cost neutral. And they went to the Earth Day thing we had in the park last year. It was wonderful for the kids, great event. You can learn about sustainability. There are normally cost neutral or cost savings with regards to improving the environment, sustainability goals. I worked in that at DSN with a European company for about 7 years. So there's plenty of areas, new technologies that can be done to help reduce costs, reduce chemical loads, and basically be a great, nice thing for the benefits. And the village should support it whenever possible and facilitate basically their efforts.
Thank you, Tom. Christina Sayas?
The great thing about Elm Grove is that there are a lot of amazing community groups that continue to step up. These groups have done a great job in spearheading some of these initiatives. As a village board, I think we should be supportive of these efforts by promoting and educating residents, as well as discussing, when needed, review of municipal codes like for no mow may, and or coordinating village resources to support. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. If anybody would like to respond or clarify.
I'll do a quick
Robert?
response. I'm very happy to see the Arbor Day festivities and the tree sale to help the residents get more shrubs or other environment on their properties instead of just grass. I'm planning on taking advantage of it this year because I have one place where we took down some trees that were really just volunteers in an old retaining wall, and I need some trees to replace it. Otherwise, the back of my house gets too hot. So I'm going to take advantage of it this year.
Thank you. Jim, do you want to say anything more? Mary?
I'm good.
Okay. Thomas?
Good.
And Tom? Christina?
Good.
Oh, we started with Christina. Okay. All right, let's move on to the next topic, which is pathways and roadways. A little background. In the last decade, there have been 3 segments of pedestrian pathway constructed in Elm Grove. The pathway along Juneau between Highland and the railroad tracks, the connection between Elm Grove Road from Juneau to Watertown Plank, and a section of Watertown Plank close to the western edge of town. Gebhardt Road from Highland to Pilgrim is the next scheduled pathway to be constructed. The Ad Hoc Pathway Committee has come up with a ranking system for the remaining pathways along high pedestrian and motor routes, and has set a goal of pushing for the construction of a pathway per year. At the same time, many of the roadways in Elm Grove are in need of repair or reconstruction, and substantial discussion has surrounded how to budget for this. The question is, do you think the goals of the Ad Hoc Pathway Committee are feasible? And what level of support do you think the village should give to pathway construction? We will start this one with Jim Koleski.
Thank you. I support the expansion of pathways in the village as a means to protect our community and improve the safety of walking and biking in the village. The committee's recent focus on small pathway projects on Juneau and Graymore, the near Tonawanda, is driven by safety for our children. Additionally, the pathway along Highland from North Avenue to Gebhardt would provide a safe route for residents and children to access the village park and the rest of our community. I support prioritizing these pathways for annual implementation, along with the Gebhardt pathway that is in the plans for 2023. As stated, the annual Public Works funding budget supports road, pathway, and bridge construction. The annual amount available will not be sufficient to fund all these projects. I will work with the board, village staff, and the Public Works Committee, which I am currently a member, to thoughtfully fund these projects while being a steward of the village's excellent financial position. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Mary Enden?
I commend the Ad Hoc Pathway Committee for their analysis and recommendations. When I was a trustee in the late 80s, we made plans for the Juneau pathway, and I was tasked with walking the route with Public Works people to map out which trees would be saved, which shrubs could go, how we could replant trees and shrubs. We were all set to construct it when the necessity for a major drainage pipe drained the budget and canceled the pathway till just a few years ago. We need pathways. We would like to have them, but I go back to my first topic a half hour ago or whatever, that we need money. We need to get the money to do these projects. We have to figure that out. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Thomas Shepard?
My humble beginning in Elm Grove Public Service started with pathways. In the spring of 2020, during the lockdowns, I counted 47 children within a 3-block radius of my home. Most of them were trying to access the park, this great amenity we have, via the Juneau path. The problem was they had to cross Juneau. We all know it's notorious for speeding. I petitioned the Public Safety Committee and the former police chief to make the Juneau pathway access safer by adding designated crossing points. I am encouraged by the residents on the west end that the village is moving forward on the Gebhardt pathway. It makes sense. Highland could be a little trickier due to the topography and potential safety issues, but I think we'll get there. Roads and pathways are part of the Transportation Fund budget, and as stated by the other candidates, it only sets aside $550,000 per year to address these needs. I understand that the Ad Hoc Pathway Committee would like to see one pathway per year. I'm open to exploring additional creative funding options for these priority pathways because they do promote pedestrian and child safety and they benefit housing values.
Thank you. Tom Castile?
Yeah, I too support the pathways. I think they're extremely important. But the feasibility of the one a year depends on the finances. You know, road repairs are important, but I think the safety of our children are absolutely critical. It's a must-have. There is no choice. The children must be safe. One of the things that's driving the need for pathways is this increased traffic throughout the village. We're seeing more and more through traffic. People are trying to cut from north to south, cutting through the village, and we have to focus heavily on trying to reduce whenever possible the amount of traffic that's flowing through, and especially the speed limits, enforcing the speed limits, controlling that so that we can reduce the risk associated with the traffic and do everything we can to build the as many pathways as we can financially and feasibly can do it.
Thank you. Christina Sayas?
So construction of a pathway per year, is it feasible? I wish it was feasible, but the economics don't support it unless we as a village can do a better job at securing grants and other state and federal support to help accomplish these lofty goals. It's not that I don't support pathways, but we have to understand we're trying to coordinate roadways being done alongside pathways to drive cost savings. For example, Gephardt, which is scheduled for this year, we're redoing Gephardt and at the same time constructing a pathway down Gephardt from Highland to Pilgrim, even though we didn't get the grant funding we were anticipating, which is going to impact the ability to do other projects because we have to bear the entire cost for this. We have bridges like the Marcella Bridge that has been pushed off for years now. If we had the money, it would have been done. We have existing projects that are becoming unsafe and need to be addressed. I would like to see all the pathways completed, but I think we must also address the safety issues of our roads and bridges. I will be transparent about the challenges and not just tell you yes. Thank you.
Thanks, Christina. Robert Prang?
I was disappointed to see that we didn't get the funding for the Gephardt increase, but I was fairly happy that the referendum went through anyway. I think the key thing with what we're doing is as we approach reworking the roadways and making them safer, we also need to look at making pedestrian traffic and the pathways safer as we move through those areas. I think there's an opportunity to leverage into some of the roadway projects to make sure, like we've done at Gephardt, to make sure that we have that end game in sight to support alternative forms of transportation in the community. I think as we get to building out the downtown area, those pathways will start feeding it more. People will walk more. People will take their bicycles more as transportation gets more expensive. So I think as we approach this, we should look towards the future of how people get into the areas that we want to support in our community, how we bring forward the services that we are trying to make happen in the environment.
Thank you. And any responses? Jim Koleski?
Just another comment. The very visible benefits of the pathways that have been put into the village to date support this as a clear priority for safety and overall connectedness of the village. Yes, there's going to have to be some prioritization and rethinking of how money is going to be allocated, but the two that I mentioned, the Juneau and Graymore small pathways and then the Highland to North, are critical to improve safety. We've had incidents in that area that have nearly cost children lives.
Thank you. Mary Andon, do you want to add to anything?
I will admit that I'm terribly spoiled. We moved into our house. We live on Watertown Plank, and the pathway at the Methodist Church was there already. Our kids would hop on their bikes and say, "We're going to the Grove." I think a lot of kids would love to have that freedom of just going. So we got to find some money, guys.
Thank you. Thomas Shepard, anything more?
I'm good. Thank you.
Tom Castile?
Yeah, I have the two grandkids, Noah and Lily. They live on the Highland. When they first learned how to ride a bike, they had to stay in their driveway because they couldn't get out on Highland because it was just not safe enough. So pathways are important. They're extremely important. We don't have the funds to do all the pathways, but we have to find ways. We have to find ways to reduce the traffic through there, enforce the speed limit, and reduce the amount of through traffic. With North now, with it being a 4-lane in a lot of areas, and with the new ways and all those, mapping things, people cut through our community way too much and way too fast.
Thank you. Christina Sayas, anything more?
I'm good.
And Robert Prang.
I'm good, thank you.
All right, thank you. And this is our final citizens submitted topic, and the candidates will have a brief closing statement afterwards. So the last topic is EMS and fire. A little background. Like many communities relying on volunteer fire and emergency services, Elm Grove has in recent years struggled to recruit new volunteers. A village committee was recently formed to investigate ways to strengthen the fire and EMS departments, to realign pay scales to more competitive rates, and to expand recruitment. However, questions remain about the long term viability of these plans. The question for the candidates is, what are your thoughts on maintaining the Elm Grove Fire and EMS as volunteer forces at any cost, or are you open to mergers with other municipalities? And we'll start this one with Mary Inden.
I'm totally opposed to any plan that would take away our own Elm Grove Fire and EMS services. Delegating to Brookfield or other communities. I've used 911 multiple times in my adult life. If you're on your cell and you do 911, it goes to Jupiter, Mars, Venus, Waukesha County, maybe Brookfield, maybe it'll get here. I keep trying to train people to put our dispatch phone number in their phone under A as the first number that you could call if you had an emergency. I have a saying, what's the worst thing that can happen, and then fix it so it doesn't. Keep our talent here, encourage it, encourage our volunteers. Let's have our volunteer recognition ceremonies again like we had until 8 or 10 years ago. Let's thank people for what they're doing. Saying thanks is a big deal. Saying thank you ever so much, thank your family. That's even better.
Thank you. Thomas Shepard?
So personally, we've had two loved ones that have counted on Elm Grove 911 the last 18 months. So this one hits close to home. Fire and EMS do have a structural dilemma, one that all residents should understand. Our core volunteers are aging out, and volunteerism may be unsustainable. We have a staffing issue and potential fiscal cliff looming in the future. The town of Delafield has on their spring ballot a very similar situation. So we will have, we won't be the only community in this pickle, and we'll actually have a comparable to look at after this election. On finance, we recently authorized the sale of a fire truck that wasn't being used. We also budgeted for additional paid on-call wages. This is a stopgap. It's a Band-Aid. It might be 2 years. It might be 5 years, but we need to explore the best long-term solutions for our community. I agree. If we have to merge or do a district, it's got to stop there. We do not want to lose our Elm Grove identity or our ability to self-govern our important key departments.
Thank you. Tom Castile?
This is a serious problem, serious challenge for the village. And when you're trying to solve a problem, you need to focus on what the deliverables are, what you're trying to provide. You're not trying to provide necessarily a volunteer service. You're trying to provide state-of-the-art, high-quality emergency services, fire and EMS. And to solve that problem, you have to look across all reasonable options and do good due diligence about all these choices and see which is best to providing good long-term EMS and fire protection for our citizens. That needs to be the solution. We have a lot of good local expertise. Joe Coffey is fantastic with regards to years and years of experience in this area. John, who's leading the committee with regards to looking at exploring in these, has also a background in EMS. So we need to leverage their experience, get their input, and try to find a way to solve this problem and find the best solution for a financial, long-term EMS and fire for our village.
Thank you. Christina Sayas?
Merging with other municipalities is not an option for me at this time. Last fall, the Admin and Personnel Committee approved to create sleeping quarters at our firehouse to provide personnel that would like to join our department but live outside of our response area to a place to stay. We also approved raising the pay to be competitive with the surrounding departments. More than 92% of Wisconsin's 812 fire departments are volunteer or mostly volunteer, according to the U.S. Fire Administration, ranking Wisconsin 14th nationally in that regard. That means the challenges Elm Grove encounters are playing out in nearly all fire departments across the state. Yes, it is tougher to operate each year as we face recruitment and retention difficulties, all while calls for emergency services are rising. But back in September, we created a Fire and EMS Futures Study Committee that have been meeting regularly to discuss the challenges we're facing and hopefully finding additional ways in which to continue to offer our residents the services they're accustomed to. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Prang?
When I started looking for areas to volunteer, the first one that came up was going back in my history where I was a EMT level 2 in Illinois. So I went back and got my training, and I don't think people realize how much of a commitment that training is in order to get through just to volunteer. It's several $1,000s, or actually a couple $1,000s, and it requires a lot of time to get through it. And I've got through it. I passed it, and I think that one thing that the city needs to do is not just look at supplemental income, but potentially recruiting from within the programs that are in the training facilities that we have currently in the state, so that we can get people young and possibly get them interested in volunteering, because a lot of them get shifts, but then they would like to work more time. And sometimes the companies they're working with won't allow them to do that because of the shifts they're taking. It might be a way to increase the volunteerism.
Thank you, Robert. Jim Koleski.
This is a great question, and the review of short, intermediate, and long-term options by the committee is ongoing. This issue is a national issue, as mentioned, with many communities working to creatively address this challenge. I support continuing the volunteer force, and during 2023 budget process, a review was made of the current competitiveness of Elm Grove's on-call scales, including on-call pay for daytime coverage. A detailed recommendation was put forward, and funding was approved to help retain and attract team members. Also, through the great work of EMS leadership, a $100,000 grant was applied for and awarded to support these changes for 2023. Additionally, a budget resolution applied general fund savings from 2022 to fund $100,000 of support to continue the program into 2024. The immediate and long-term solutions to address the skills shortage may have to be considered the forming of a fire and EMS district, not a merger, but a district in cooperation with other communities in the area.
Thank you, Jim. And now optional response. Mary, do you have an optional response?
I do feel that we need to do everything possible to keep our people here well trained, proud of their contributions, and safe. We need to hire, pay stipends, whatever it takes to keep our personnel here and happy and well trained.
Thank you. Thomas Shepard, anything more?
Yeah, there's a group online that we've probably all seen. It's Keep Elm Grove Charming, and a neighbor across the street from mine said, we don't want to just keep this place charming. We want to actually keep Elm Grove. A way to do that is not outsource our departments, self-governance. So I'm as concerned as a lot of the other candidates about this, and we need to take a real deep dive and do the right thing for the community.
Thanks, Tom Castile.
Yeah, this is one of the most complicated challenges we face. Significant dollar shortages are forecasted with regards to provide these services. So if we can keep it in-house and keep doing the type of service we've been doing and maintain the quality of the EMS and fire, fantastic. But like I said, a lot of these communities are facing the same challenge. We have to keep an open mind. We have to be creative. We have to find ways to solve this. We don't want to lose our services, the quality of our services, but we have to find solutions. We're talking about a shortfall. I think John was talking about over $1 million in our revenue down the road. So we have to find solutions soon.
Thank you. Christina, anything more?
I just want everyone to know that we understand that this is a huge issue for us, and I'm just grateful that we've already implemented some positive changes, and that we do have this committee that is meeting regularly, and I believe that we're gonna get it done.
Thank you. Robert, anything more?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. And Jim Koleski, anything more to add?
Yeah, I think Christina had it right. I mean, this is a top of mind concern for the village board and for the community. And please, if you have ideas, share them, because the committee is looking and working. I think one good takeaway is during door to door, I met some new volunteer firefighters, and they are excited to be joining the team.
Thank you. That's it for the questions portion. We're going to move into candidate closing statements. Each of you will have 1 minute to just kind of wrap things up. So we'll start that with Thomas Shepard.
So this election's about candidate competence, judgment, character. Voters will decide who will be guiding the vision of our collective home. In 2014, we were named by Business Insider as the best suburb in America. However, just this month, Niche magazine came up with their rankings of best places to live in Wisconsin, and we had slid to number 6. Now, these rankings can be somewhat subjective, and I just simply don't want to see us continue to slide. I'm a competitor. I'm a problem solver. I'm a uniter. I'm a consensus builder. As a business owner, I work within budgets every single day. As a board, we need to have the energy and the vision to set the policy for the community, and we need to aim high. Volunteerism is very special here. I think of my neighbor, John Wormuth, who built his home in 1958 on Catherine Drive. He shared with me proudly last week that he served as a trustee in the 1980s. He did his part along with countless others before me. So I'm here now, raising my hand, ready to roll up the sleeves and go to work and do my part to keep the legacy of our founders. I'd be honored to earn your vote on April 4.
Thank you. Tom Castile?
I think one of the biggest things we need is better, we want everybody to work better together. We have to stop this fighting that's been going on the last few years, with the complaining and fighting across the board in the management and within tribes within the village, and work together to solve these problems. I spent the last 20 plus years solving problems in new technologies, starting the company down in Waukegan 9 years ago. You face a lot of challenges with a small company with a small budget and a lot of needs. And so we need someone with a citizen background. That's why I'm here to serve, to actually try to support the citizens, to make sure that you understand what's going on, because the best solution comes from having everyone involved. If people get involved, we'll find out what the best solution, and we'll have the best outcome for Elm Grove and keep it the special, unique place that we all love.
Thank you. Christina Sayas?
This doesn't count, does it? I thank you again to the Elm Grove Junior Guild for hosting this evening's forum. I truly appreciate this opportunity. Okay, ready? Go. I'm proud to be counted among those dedicated to ensuring a bright future for our village. My motivation to run for re-election is to ensure that our children will have the opportunity to experience joy similar to those my husband cherishes from growing up here, of being able to walk safely home from school, of seeing examples of community engagement, of helping and caring for our neighbors, of maintaining our traditions, preserving our history, and connecting with the landscape that makes our village unique and wonderful. I want Elm Grove to continue to be a place where our children will want to return and where new neighbors will want to move, raise families, start businesses, get involved, and prosper. My experience in growing my business has taught me how to motivate people, how to listen, and how to create systems that work. My experience on boards has taught me how to work through hard decisions and build consensus in a collaborative fashion. My experience in public and philanthropic service has taught me empathy. My experience here in Elm Grove with many different organizations has provided me the opportunity to get to know our village staff and the great volunteers throughout our community. I believe my experience will continue to help Elm Grove thrive. I'm hopeful I will have the opportunity to continue to serve you as a village trustee, and I'm asking for your vote. Thank you.
Thanks, Christina. Robert Prang?
I'm looking forward to putting some of my own sweat equity into this community. I've done it all my life. I've worked on extremely hard projects where we had to consolidate multiple divisions of a single company's IT department into one. I know how to build consensus. I know how to bring people together. And a lot of that is how you communicate what you're trying to accomplish in a way that everybody can understand it. At one point, I reported to 7 CIOs across the world trying to do projects that made a difference to the organization. I think I can apply some of my learning to being a trustee for the community. And I thank you for your support if you do provide it. And I'm looking forward to working with the other members that are on the board of trustees.
Thank you. Jim Koleski?
Thank you for your time this evening, and hopefully through the forum I was able to provide some additional color on my thoughts for the village and approach to navigating the challenges ahead. Serving as a trustee these past 11 months have given me perspective and many lessons learned to build on in 2024 and beyond. I'd also like to take a moment to thank the excellent village team that we have in place that make running the daily operations look easy, however requires daily commitment to excellence. If you experience a positive interaction with our staff, please recognize them because they are great. Please see my website at jimkoleski.elmgrove.com for further information, and send me a message if you have any questions. If you see me out on my bike going door to door, stop and say hello. I ask for your vote on April 4th to be your next village president. Have a great night.
Thank you. And Mary Enden?
I'm asking for your write-in vote. Why a write-in? Our son Andy came back to us from Boston after most of his adult life living there with metastatic cancer, so he could be with us at the end. He succumbed in January. It was past the deadline to take out candidate papers, but I felt that the village residents should have choices, and so I'm challenging Jim. As a former employer, business leader, event planner, and volunteer, I have learned that no matter how hard I try, I can't please everyone. But as a leader, I know that in most instances, accurate information is a key component to having meaningful discussions and possible agreements. Some issues are so important and personal that agreement won't happen when the word compromise becomes important. Courtesy, respect, curiosity about the other side can help in coming to an agreement. If elected, I will work hard to make sure the information is clear, understandable, and the projects and decisions are good for the village. Thank you to the Junior Guild and you, Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you to all the candidates here tonight who are the slate of candidates for being willing to serve, for being willing to be part of this forum and to serve as a volunteer. None of them are paid as a trustee or president of this village. They put so much hard work into those positions and into committee positions. So it's very honorable, and I give you great respect for being willing to do this. I also wanted to thank Brian Naylor, Catherine Gale from the village for helping with the audiovisual and recording. To Stacy Berry Coffee and John Schindler for timekeeping there, waving the sign and keeping everybody on track. Special shout out to Monica Schmidt from the Junior Guild and Dave DeAngelis from the village for helping put together the questions. Just a final reminder that the Village Hall is open for voting on Election Day, April 4th from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And on behalf of the Elm Grove Junior Guild, we thank you all for your attention and good night.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.